Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have the top 8 deck list from the Friday Origins Dragon Ball Super Regional that happened this past week. This was an event that happened at Origins. There are actually two, and both were hosted by PPG. There was a Wednesday one and a Friday one. The Wednesday one had 26 players, and if you guys want to see the deck list for that one, they should already be on the PPG website. So there's going to be a link in the description as well as on this document for their event management. So if you want to check out those, you can. I wanted to focus just on this event too. There were slightly more players with 56, so I want to do a top 8 from there and kind of just go over that. So that's what we're doing today. But I do also want to just thank PPG for running the event, but also for giving me these lists to give to you guys. Make sure when you're over there on their website to check the other events they have going on this summer. They have a good amount for Digimon and Dragon Ball Super, so definitely make sure to check that out. But going over the breakdown, so this was best of one pre-side, and based on the rules for the tournament, there were 8 rounds, which is kind of high for 56 players, but there was a top 4 cut from there. So obviously it's not playing till 1 undefeated. You play ace rounds, then the top 4 with records from there get to the top cut and kind of just go from there. So that's the idea for it. And we had 7 different leaders getting into this top 8. So normally I just do one of every leader, but with this, we're just going to go over every leader today and kind of go from there. So let's go with the first place list. So here we have Robert Rietze's first place Universe 7 Goku. And I think Universe 7 Goku is probably the best deck in the format now. It's kind of hard to say that. There's been a lot of just variety in a lot of things, but I think this is probably like one of the most consistent leaders and archetypes in the game right now. It's pretty self-explanatory of how to build it, though I will say Robert did make some interesting choices for him, like a lot of interesting ones, like After Image at only 1, which is a little wild. We also have the 8-drop Goku also only at 1, I guess he just had so many times where he's like, you know what, I find it, and I just have bunch of dead ones in hand, so I don't need to find any more. Obviously, the Sparking 20 on the leader just makes you find one anyways if you need it, if it's in the drop area too. And then additionally, we've got the Bodyguard Legic. We do also have the new Baby Juvenile Parasite Unison from this. So if your leader card is red and all your energy is in rest mode, your leader gets plus 1k power, which is kind of nice, especially since this deck kind of taps out a bit. And also, if you would lose a marker from an opponent's attack, you may place 1 card from underneath this card to its owner's drop area instead. And then also plus 1, draw 1, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and place it underneath this card. This card gets plus 10k power for the turn. So obviously just being able to get advantage, being able to get 20k, and also just being able to keep those markers is really nice, especially with the Videl. So this is the kind of, this got a lot of value when that baby got announced. So it does have, if you have a Ready Unison card and play with 3 or more markers on it, then you can play this without paying its energy cost. And then Spirit Boost 1, if your leader cards are red, or Hero card, when this card is played, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards to get minus 20k power for the turn. So very, very strong counterplay, way better than Yamcha, and being able to do that is kind of nice. And then pretty much the one of Surprise Stack Frieza is interesting. The Supreme Kai of Time are just additional combo pieces. So if you have low cards in hand, these become 10Ks. You don't get to play them for free, but they are something there. And then you do have more in the side. We do have an additional After Image technique. I checked. I was 99% sure he had only 13 cards. If there are 15, let me know, Robert. But I'm based on what I saw, there's only 13 cards in that extra deck, which I guess don't matter if you're already winning. And again, since we're pre-side, you can always have After Image technique at 2, which is nice. And then we do have like the Run with the Gods, Ultra Instinct. We have more Vegetas, some Violent Rays, and the Bora, of course, for the hand destruction. Still no more 8-drops Goku, so definitely I think knows where he's at with those. Then we do also have for our 5th place list. So this is David Brinzo's list. So I would say this is more standard for what I'm used to in a lot of ways. So we see a bunch more of these Gokus. It's also running some of the skillless cards. Obviously works well with the Gohan to get some more cycle. And they are Universe 7s too, so that does help get your leader abilities. And then choosing the Jiren Unison. So this before BT7 was usually the 3-drop Unison we go to. There's a Sin Shenron one as well, which I don't think he put in his side. No, he did not. But just being able to swing into or just being able to pop your opponent's cards and be like, this is a really obnoxious Unison a lot of times. You just play it and then your opponent's like, well, it's here forever now. and that's I just have to play around it. So also playing some of these weird Universe 7s in the main. So you either get to choose one Universe 7 from your drop area and add it to your hand, or you can choose one Universe 7 card with any cost of 4 or less from your deck and add it to your hand and shuffle. So like these can recycle super combos, which is kind of nice, and being able to choose one. Like both effects can find super combos, so that's kind of nice for one, being able to get a super combo back. If you have just floating energy and you need to go for it, obviously they can recycle the pretty much anything in deck, so I think they're good searchers. They do cost 1, which is a little expensive in a deck that doesn't do a lot of untapping, but that is the case. And then pretty much standard for everything. I'm surprised these aren't in the main when we're already running the skillless cards, but again, if they're in the side, you can always put them back into the main. And nothing too crazy from there. We're only running 3 Videls in the main, but again, using a 3-drop unison means you can use those Videls and you're good to go. So that is David's list. I'm going to second place. So this is Legends Kerrick's King Piccolo, and you can ban cards from King Piccolo, but you can't ban Legends that easily. Running this deck, he was playing King Piccolo, and that got hit, and he was playing Invoker, and that got hit, all within like a couple weeks of each other. So I guess he chose that King Piccolo is the less banned of them all, and it was the correct choice. You got second place with this list. So obviously some change have to happen because there's no pianos left in the deck, and you have to only play one Piccolo, one drum, one King Piccolo new ruler. So some additions to this. The one ad I saw was the Mass Saiyan Avenger from Another Dimension. This pretty much just reads draw 1+1. That is pretty much all that's on this guy. There's not a lot of Saiyans in here, but you can draw one card and then give your Saiyans a boost if you need to. There's no one cost Saiyans to shuffle back. It's literally just drawing a card off the +1. And then if you have a Saiyan, you get a +1 on this guy. So, which is something, but like, it's only it's literally a draw 1, because that was the best thing about this unison anyway, is having a unison for that. Also, something to note too is that the symbol needs to have a unison with rejuvenate, which only is this guy, so you're gonna have to watch out for that. So that's kind of something unfortunate with it, but in general, this is still, there's a lot of gas in this guy, and I'm surprised it got top 8 still. Don't get me wrong. But obviously, I think Legends is a very good player. It has been for a very long time. I think this normally is not the one you play, but activate for 1. If there's red, this card gets +10 critical for the turn, and if your opponent's left is at 5 or more, you get to deal damage with them. So this is a new ad I've seen, maybe 4 p.m. I mean, it's just you play it for 1, you recycle. And you cycle more, which is pretty much the idea for most of these anyways. And it's King Piccolo, and it's a Namekian, so you're fine. The one of the new 8-drop. So for 3, if you have 4 or more energy, you can play this card from underneath a unison card. Also, Spirit Boost 3, all of your opponent's battle cards get -3k power for the turn. This gains triple attack for the turn. And limit 1, choose one of your red unisons with 10k power or more, place this card underneath it and from your hand or battle area, and you get to add a marker to it. So that's pretty much just how you do it. You put a marker underneath your Mass Saiyan or your Piccolo. Let's make sure like it survives another turn, and then like on turn 4 you get to play this for 3. It's a deflect, triple attacker, as long as you have the Spirit Boost 3 for everything. Some additional cards in the side, like the Vegetos here. There's the Shin. When your opponent when you play this card, activate the skill. If your opponent can't attack with battle cards and you cost 7 or more until the start of the next main phase. So pretty sure that's mostly for Sin Shenron and decks like that who run those big boys. Dabur in the side is always Koizukai, one of the secret medicine, and going from there. And also like the Trunks, it's just an overwhelm to draw 1 +5k, because you don't also have the Bardock for removal anymore. Not that I don't think this deck needed a lot of removal, but I don't know. It's cool to see that still doing well, and hopefully it's not. I'm ready to play other decks. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like a deck being banned, hammered out of existence. And it's cool to see it still gets a top 8 finish and a second place finish, no less, even after everything that's been hit from like the last year and a half with it. So there we go there. And then next up we do have Eden Salins Sin Shenron. I don't have a lot to say about Sin Shenron. It is pretty much the exact same list it's been for a while, just getting a piece or two of tech every once in a while. Yellow has not been hit on the ban list since probably the power of a Super Saiyan being limited to 1 and like all the Bojack stuff, but Yellow's been pretty safe and cruising along for a while. It is kind of interesting though. I think this is the only yellow deck that made the top 8. We didn't see any future trunks in here, and we didn't see, like, a lot of people thought that yellow was the winner of the ban list, and to only see one list get on the other side of that is a little bit interesting. And since Shenron, which, I mean, since Shenron is yellow, but it's its own thing, its own like deck for a lot of things. It's its own archetype. It doesn't it plays by its own rules. So, it's still good. I don't have a lot to say about it, but congrats to Eden for getting top with this. Shenron, my goodness, is still good in case you needed to know that information. All right, next up, we do have our 4th place. So this is Devin Brentzel's Spaceship GT. This is a deck I think a lot of people thought was going to be a front runner from the BT17 meta, and this is the first top that I've seen with the deck since it's been released. A lot of people are talking about the difference of status card and interaction, being able to do the Spirit Boost X when you have this big old spaceship with like 10 markers on it. So, but only running 2 and still doing well with it too. I think this is more of just like a tech instead of like a backbone for the list. And in general, if you don't know how this deck works, you just put a bunch of Saiyans underneath your spaceship and you get to play them for free, and you get to put a bunch of markers on this guy as well. So you can almost always play Yamchas and go from there. Honestly, it only has the it only has the one marker or one cost. So you can't put Videls in this list as much as you'd want to. So you kind of have to be stuck with Yamcha, but he's fine for where you're at. And it's just kind of like a aggressive red deck. It reminds me a lot of like King Piccolo, being able to play stuff for free, but you don't have like a lot of ways for energy. We have like these Bardoks too. Bond 3 is pretty easy with this list too, to play a 1-drop that becomes a 15k crit. We have like the surprise attack, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. When you use Spirit Boost, get to play this for free. It's a 15k crit as well. And then pretty standard side, we do have the Imposing Presence. We have the Hidden Ambitions, the Meki, and even this boy. So when this card is played from your hand, you can play up 1 Kaba with 3 markers, and if you didn't, if you don't, you get to pop something with Barrier. And also Spirit Boost 1, if your leader is a mono red Saiyan, this card is in rest mode. When your opponent attacks your leader card, you can have it get plus 5k power for the battle. So it's just like another removal target that has like something on the board. But that is the idea there. So it's cool to see this deck do well. I'm interested to see if it keeps doing well in the next couple of events. Next up, we do have Jacob Burton's Gamma. So similarly, this is the first top that I've really seen with Gamma. There might have been others, but this is the one that I've noticed first. And I really thought Gamma was going to be a good list going forward. I think it still is. And I think people are still tinkering with it and making their own builds. And I think this one is definitely pretty unique in a couple ways. One is running the Goku Apes, which a lot of decks are not running that. Obviously, you want to be able to find the right colors for your energy shenanigans. If you don't know, like you have to kind of cycle your energy with this, but it's based off the top deck, so there is a little bit of RNG and consistency issues with it. But being able to run the Son Gokus to you get to untap 3 at the end of every turn, essentially, right? So if you want to draw 2 with this list, you can, and I think this is a good add, and I'm glad to see it do well. You do have a bunch of boss monsters with the Cell as well. There's also the Majin Buu. Since this is a blue-green archetype, you can play this boy, and you can play it on your opponent's turn too, because it only locks you out of energy cost of 7 or less, which also means that if you play a token with blocker, it doesn't have a cost, so you can still block with it on your opponent's turn. But being able to play this for 2, your opponent can attack with battle cards for the turn, so it is like Hatchiyak, but you don't have to pay for it. You have to pay for it, which isn't as big of a deal for a deck that untaps 3 every turn. And then also, when you play this card from your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's using cards, and you get to gain control of it. So there's some shenanigans with this. I'm sure like 1 or 2 games or 1 just by popping this down when your opponent's not expecting it. And since you are running the green stuff, that is possible for you. There's also the Aandroidd 16 Steadfast comeback. A lot of people have been trying to put Aandroidd 16 stuff in it because Aandroidd 16 is already pretty good in its own right as a blue-green Aandroidd archetype. And this one, I think, is the one, when you play this card, is using a combo from your hand, you get to make your opponent discard 1, and also it's a dual attack, block, revenge. So I think that's fine for what it is. Also, you can play this to 1 blue Aandroidd when they cost 1 in your deck into your drop area, which I don't think that's anything in this deck. No, it is not. But being able to have like some arrival plays, especially with like a blocker on your opponent's turn, is good. And we have so much blue-green in this deck anyways that it makes somewhat sense to do it. You need 1 green for it, which means this is This is it doesn't have energy exhaust with our leader, so you just put these in there and then you're kind of good to go. Also, we're already running Aandroidd 18. I think it's the best super combo for the deck anyway, so it kind of works through there. Nothing much else. You do have the cheese, the Aandroidd 16 into Aandroidd 21 combo in the sideboard if you need it. And I'm sure it's very archetype dependent. If you think, like, if you're playing in something with like God Sealing Trunks, you're not playing this guy because they can do the God Sealing Trunks, but it's pretty strong otherwise. So I'm happy that this deck did well. This is one of my favorite decks from the BT17 meta, and I'm hoping it does well in the future as well. Next up, we do have Cooler, which I think people have determined is a good deck in this. Again, this reminds me a lot of kind of like the King Cold deck and archetype that we've had previously. It's very centered into using your unisons, but I think like this has a better way to kind of recycle them, especially compared to how like the yellow one does it, the Drip Coup. Being able to play these on your opponent's turn and being flexible and being more reactive to your opponent than kind of just placing something and popping something as it goes, I think is a better strategy. There's also already the hand destruction archetype stuff with it too, with the Frieza and the Whis being able to make your opponent discard a card every time these are played with a limit 1, except for, yeah, both are limit 1, but you get the cycle, you get your Empower swapping, which is nice, and you go from there. So there's other hand destruction stuff in this, including the Ribrianne, including the Frieza Masu, which can play off the Frieza. The Cooler also can essentially become a 1-cost double strike that makes your opponent discard 1. We have the Toa, we have the Wicked Saiyans, which do the same, and the Koitsukai essentially makes them not play anything on your turn unless they want to discard kind of more cards. So I'm happy to see this one is doing well still. It is, for real, I'd say like my favorite 3, okay, never mind. These are my favorite 2 of the arcs of the set. I don't like GT, but that's another story. But I'm happy both of these are doing well. I'm so happy GT's doing well. It's just not my favorite compared to these other 2. So some tech on the side, including the Big Amor. If your leader card is green, your opponent can't attack with battle cards any cost of 5 or more until the start of your next main phase. So if you're playing against something like Shenron again, you can just play this and then they're kind of locked out for their next turn. Deborah for other hand destruction decks. Boo if you think you're going to go into the long game and you have this big old 5-drop. The Meki and the Vegeta again for the hand destruction archetypes in the mirror and stuff. So look at this good, and congrats to Billy Brown for his 7th place with this. And then lastly, we have Frisco Fahs with the good old red-blue launch. This has been kind of launch is a really interesting leader. I like it a lot, and it kind of benefits decks that like to cycle a lot, have a lot of combo plays, and being able to get the red blue stuff off is really, really fun. So the new card too is again the baby juvenile parasite. Being able to play this turn 3 is fantastic. You get to draw cards, you get to pop your opponent's cards, and kind of go from there. So I like the idea with it, especially since we're running the Super Saiyan Son Goku Pan and Trunks. So you can put this underneath it, you can get another marker, and as we said earlier, we can play it for 3 and you get some big value from it. We're also not afraid to tap out with this list too. So playing baby on turn 3 doesn't mean anything if we've got a Beerus and then we can follow up with a Bean on the defense side. We're already wanting to combo too because we get the free cycle with our combos, and since it's a 10k, we are not technically over comboing a lot of the time either because of how the launch leader works. But it's really fun. I like the idea of this. This has been kind of an archetype for launch for a while, and it's still doing well, especially with I think Baby is a great new card for the deck, and I think it's one of the better leaders to kind of take advantage for it. So I think it's really insightful that Frisco is able to see that and carry it through. The other kind of things, I guess the biggest thing is that if you want Shenron, if you think Shenron is a better unison for the idea, it does the same thing as Baby. You play it turn 3, except for it has the being able to pop things with minus 15k, as well as being able to attack your opponent's cards in active mode. Those are the kind of the main things for this guy. And if you think that's better for the deck that you're playing against, you can go for it. And that's kind of it. So those are the lists that we're going over today. Congrats again to all of our top 8 for this event. Again, thank you to PPG for giving me these lists to give to you guys. Make sure to check out the link for them in the description for future events and also the Wednesday top 16 list. And that's going to be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.